But first, get up out of your chairs, open the window, stick your head out and yell, and say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
Welcome to the Kindness Chronicles, where once again we hope to inject the world with a dose of the Minnesota kindness that it desperately needs. I am stuck at my office.
Wow.
Yeah,
Look at you with a tie.
I feel good, though. I'm kind of dressed kind of like a dandy.
Yeah,
we got
look
Steve
sharp.
Brown here.
Hi.
We've got Jeff. Are you there?
I'm back here. Yep.
KG, the Wild are playing tonight. We have a special guest, Mark. But before we introduce Mark, Steve, you have a little comment on the current situation that you'd like to share with our listeners.
Yes, this is just kind of a level set acknowledgement from the Kindness Chronicles to our listeners and to our listeners outside of Minnesota and elsewhere. But just kind of speaking to the current situation in Minnesota, because people ask us a lot, and I think we don't really talk about it. We are not a political show, but this is something I think we need to kind of get through. So hopefully I can see all this. To our Kindness Chronicles listeners, especially our listeners here in Minnesota, we know that right now a lot of people are hurting. What's happening around us in our neighborhoods, in our city, our state, has stirred up fear, anger, sadness, and exhaustion for many. Some of you may feel overwhelmed. Others may feel numb, and it is all valid. We want you to hear this clearly. You matter. Your feelings matter. Your safety, your well-being, and your peace of mind matter. We goof around a lot here, and we have some fun, but in reality, this podcast exists because we believe in people and in our shared humanity, especially in moments like this. When things feel uncertain or heavy, kindness isn't a soft idea. It's a steady one. It's how we stay connected. It's how we take care of each other. In recent events, we have been, if the recent events are weighing heavy on you, please don't carry that alone. Reach out to someone you trust, a friend, a loved one, a colleague, or a professional. Asking for support is a sign of strength, not weakness. To those feeling scared, frustrated, and deeply sad right now, we see you. To those trying to hold it together for others, we appreciate you. To everyone listening, thank you for being a part of this community, this group, this Kindness Chronicles group. We are grateful for you. We are proud of the compassion we continue to see, especially in Minnesota. And we remain committed to holding space for honest conversation, connection, and kindness, even when it's hard. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, be kind, and thank you for being with us.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah.
I also want to add, a lot of people don't know that we are on YouTube. And when you look at our YouTube feed, apparently we have 12 subscribers now, which is really funny because we quite literally have thousands of listeners, unique listeners. And if you want to see what we look like, which I don't know why you would want to do that, check us out on YouTube. Maybe you could be the lucky 13th subscriber. And then we could say stuff like, hit that like and follow button or whatever that is.
Smash the subscribe button. Yeah.
Smash it. That's it. Smash it.
Let's go.
But Steve, why don't you introduce our guest?
Yes, I'm very excited for you guys to meet this guy, and he will be a very familiar face to you and a familiar voice to all of Minnesota's TV listeners. Our guest today is Mark Daly. Mark has spent decades shining light on real human stories from the newsroom to advocacy for people with hearing challenges. He reminds us that kindness takes shape in how we listen, how we communicate, and how we include one another in a world filled with noise. Kevin Daly, welcome to the Kindness Chronicles.
Steve, you know several Dalys because you just accidentally referred to me as Kevin, my brother.
Should I read that again?
And John, I want to let you know that an hour ago you had 11 subscribers, but I just watched a podcast on YouTube and I became your 12th subscriber.
This is Mark Daly, everybody. Mark Daly, not Kevin Daly, who we've talked about. Mark Daly. I'm so sorry.
We've improved by 9%.
Mark, thank you for joining us today. You and I only recently connected, but I've known your brother for a very long time. But we don't want to talk about him. We want to talk about you, Mark Daly. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and I appreciated the statement you read right before the show began, or at the beginning of the show. I thought it was very thoughtful.
Thank you.
Yeah, we live, as we've said, these are maybe among the craziest of times we've ever had. The place that I work, I'd say more than 50% of our 600 employees are people that are immigrants. And it's a very scary time for those folks. And I do think that we need to pay special attention and have empathy for the concerns that they might have. And I'm especially grateful for the fact that many of those people have continued to show up to work every single day, despite the fears that they might have. And again, we're not going to get political on this, but it's odd times, to say the least.
And John, your background is very impressive. It looks like you could be running for some kind of office, and compared to the stocking feet that I typically see when you're in studio, I'm having some cognitive dissonance with that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't even know. Yeah, I've got my American flag back.
It looks great.
He's the mayor of Montemita right there. He's the
right.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I think of that.
Mr. Mark Daly, we know you because you were on TV for a long time. Tell us a little bit about your TV career here in Minnesota on KARE 11. Tell us about that. Talk through that.
Actually, I started at WCCO after grad school, worked there as a news researcher for 2 years, and that's where I really got my initial training working with the I-Team. I don't know if you'll remember the name.
Oh, yeah.
You bet.
The good news is you're not arrested. The bad news is we're the I-Team. Wasn't that the...
Wow.
Right. Don Shelby, Steve Eckert, Al Austin, the original I-Team. And I wanted to be a reporter, like a lot of guys in their late 20s, and they said, "You're not ready." So I got sent to a couple of small market CBS affiliates, Wausau, Wisconsin, and then Alexandria. My wife and I were married and seeing each other only on weekends while I was cutting my teeth in small market TV. There was an opening at KARE 11 the summer of 1989, and I said, "I'll take that, even though it's just a summer fill-in job." And I got a tip on an investigative story, and I ran with it. It was about a series of murders around the Honeywell plant. I don't know if you can remember, all the way back to 1989.
I was drunk in 1989. So
they hired me as an investigative reporter, KARE 11 did, and I spent maybe 10 years doing nothing but hard news, really often disturbing stories about people doing bad things.
Yeah.
And then mid-career, around the year 2000, I took a dramatic shift and started working with the extras unit, the long format pieces at KARE 11. I tell people I went from exposing scumbags to celebrating heroes. And
love it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fantastic time to be working as a local television reporter. I imagine, remember Paul Majors?
Mm-hmm.
Handsome devil.
Yes, he was. Yes, and he remained so, but now he's
I know.
There. Anyway, the station was flush with advertisers. The news media hadn't been divvied up into so many thousands of different sources of information, and we had a robust newsroom. And during the years 2000 to 2007, I had the privilege and the pleasure of meeting Minnesotans from all walks of life doing good in the world, and it was the happiest part of my career. I went on to Anytime Fitness and was the chief storyteller there for 13 years, again celebrating people doing extraordinary things. But those years, 2000 to 2007, I can't tell you how many wonderful people I met.
So you worked with Chuck Runyon at Anytime Fitness.
Yes. What a small world we have.
Of course, Sean knows somebody.
Yeah, well, Chuck has done pretty well for himself. He he's always been a big supporter of Hill Murray, Steve. You should know that.
Okay, I don't know that. But...
That kids that have gone to Hill, but yeah, that Anytime Fitness, holy cow, did that turn into a huge empire.
When I went straight from care to Anytime Fitness, and it was actually Chuck who invited me to come on over there. I'll tell you later on what that was all about. But there were only 400 clubs in the whole world at back in 2007, and now there are 5,000 of them in 40 countries.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Chuck knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, did you get the tattoo?
I did.
You did?
He showed me, yeah.
It's on my left outer shin, and it's a Running Man logo.
Oh, yeah.
With a Superman cape on it.
I kind of feel like Chuck. I don't know Chuck, but I am a fan of Chuck because of all that he's done in the community. And it's almost kind of like they branded you with that Anytime Fitness logo. And it's sort of like they had you for life. Can we go back to your from 2000 to 2007, though? I am so intrigued with, the importance of storytelling and the storytelling as it relates to these heroic people. And specifically, I think of people like Steve Hartman and, more recently, Boyd Hoopert have really kind of taken up that mantle locally. But, Steve Hartman is absolutely one of my favorite. Let's just say my algorithms take me to Steve Hartman stories quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Well, many of your listeners will know Steve Hartman started at KSTP doing feature stories, and now I believe he's on CBS Sunday morning show, and he is fantastic. And I think you and I, John, appreciate the same sort of storytelling because Steve's one of my favorite too. And Boyd Hoopert, I'm proud to, maybe he wouldn't say this, but he's one of my best friends.
Oh, really?
We overlapped at Care 11 for about 5 or 6 years, and now Boyd and I play racquetball together 3 days a week.
Jeez.
And so he's a good friend too.
I love the name of his segment, Land of 10,000 Stories. It's perfect for us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also
Boyd, can I just, Steve, one more thing about
Yeah.
Boyd? So Boyd has spoken at the at our Masonic Cancer dinner.
Okay.
He's been a patient at the Masonic Cancer Center for quite some time, and what a wonderful guy he is. So you're lucky to have a good friend like that. That's for sure.
I just also wanted to mention that Mark might not know that Joan Steffen and her husband Joe have been down here, and we've interviewed them. So I know you worked with her at Care 11 for many years, right?
Yes. Joan was the weekend anchor Care during the years that I was there, and I know Joe as well. Fine filmmaker.
Yeah. Good
beautiful.
people. Good people.
Okay,
It's
so
all
now we've
circle, full
determined
circle.
that St. Paul, Minnesota is very small. We all know each other.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the stories that you encountered in 2000 to 2007. I could sit and listen to this all day.
All right. Well, I mentioned one of these stories to Steve briefly from back in 2001. We refer to it as Angels on the 8th Floor. And like a lot of stories, I learned about it by talking to parents on the sidelines of a kid's soccer game. Everybody knows something good going on.
That's where the real stories are. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some parent told me he had a niece or a nephew who was being treated for cancer at Children's Hospital in Minneapolis. And despite the fact that his relative was going through this awful thing, he was just raving about the nurses and the staff at Children's Hospital on the cancer floor. Those kids are going through the toughest things. You got 5-year-olds with leukemia and toddlers with abdominal tumors. It's just awful. But they had an incredibly high survival rate, and the parents were talking about how empathetic the nurses were. So I brought a photographer, we went over there to find out what was going on, and it turns out an extraordinary number of the nurses who were working at Children's Hospital in the early 2000s were at one time patients themselves at the hospital, and they were getting such extraordinary care that lying in bed, they're thinking, I want to be like them when I'm old. And interviewed some of the nurses. One was 4 years old when she was diagnosed with leukemia, and 14 when she had a transplant, bone marrow transplant. And she said, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to help those who help me. So they're paying it forward. And it wasn't just the nurses. The chaplain at Children's Hospital at the time, when he was 14 years old, he lost a leg to cancer, but he appreciated the type of care that he received. And so he came back, and he told me that others asked him, how can you put yourself in the middle of this sort of situation where you've got nothing but sick kids all day long? And his response was, how can I not do it? Just wonderful people. One of these nurses, she said she thought she had the best job in the whole world, even though she spent all day long. And the slightly older children in the hospital would say that these nurses understand me because they've gone through it. And one 15-year-old kid told me that he'd already given his resume to the nurses because
wow, something going on there
someday.
So did you know that did you just get that discovery that it was more than just one person? Did you what happened when you were kind of figuring that out? Well, that must have blown your mind.
When I went there, I was aware that one of the nurses was.
Okay.
But the nursing staff on one floor, I don't know if you've got a couple dozen nurses total. It turned out that 6 or 7 of them
wow
were patients there at the time. So
I wonder if that's still going on now.
I imagine that 15-year-old back in 2007 who handed in his resume, he's the chief nurse there, man.
Yeah, chief of staff.
Wow. That's cool.
More than likely.
And I mentioned this to Steve as well, because we've had a couple conversations since we met a couple of weeks ago, that as I look back on all the stories that I did during that period, I didn't realize at the time, but looking back at it now, it's extraordinary how many of the people featured were nurses or teachers or doctors or coaches, but people who dedicate their lives to serving and caring for others.
Well, I have a special appreciation for folks that decide to go into the medical field, as we employ a whole bunch of nurses here at the Masonic Home and at the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Cancer Center. Can I just quick tell you a story? My daughter this weekend, and Steve, I don't know if I've told you or Jeff about
Jeff
that.
Didn't hear it, but yes, tell him.
So my daughter is studying in Rome this semester. She's a junior at UW-Madison, and she is an EMT. And her objective is to become a physician's assistant. So she was in London for the weekend. Oh, good for you. She was in London for the weekend, and she was flying from London to Rome. And they announced on the plane, are there any medical professionals in the plane? And she was sitting in the very back row of the airplane, and nobody had gotten up. And she's like, well, I'm an EMT. I guess I'm the closest. She got up, and she and another woman did CPR on a guy for 20 minutes until they made an emergency landing.
Wow.
And she's not sure if he made it or not.
Wow.
And I said, you know what? You did what you could do, and it's probably better off that you don't know.
Yeah.
But again, you think about those opportunities to make such a huge impact on the people around you. And people that are medically trained have a special opportunity like that the rest of us, can only think about,
What a wild ride for your daughter to be thrown into that and to actually have the skills to be able to do that. It's not just brave. Obviously she's trained, but I would think I would have so much doubt as a student. I'm like, am I supposed to be able to be doing this? That's really great that she stepped up and did that.
Pretty crazy stuff. But going back to Mark, to your stories, I would imagine that over your time, there are people that have made a lasting impact on you. You know, if you were to give us your Mount Rushmore of those individuals, you know, you mentioned a couple at the Children's Hospital, but are there other stories that you can think of that would be fun for us to hear?
Well, until you used the word fun, story came to mind immediately about a teacher in Sauk Rapids. And how about uplifting?
There we go.
Let's use that word.
Yeah, we want that too.
Okay, all right. Dennis Frederick, a third grade teacher in Sauk Rapids. Now, this isn't going to sound uplifting when I started out, but he was diagnosed with cancer, and I'm sorry to tell another story that begins like this, but when he learned that he wasn't going to survive, he made a decision on how he was going to spend the last months of his life, and that was to remain in the classroom. Talk to parents and children, was very straightforward about things, but he knew that he was a good teacher and a good-hearted teacher, and he had something to give. He had a 6-year-old child who went to class at the same school, and during breaks he would go down the hallway and give his son an extra special hug. But he spent his last year in the classroom teaching kids about responsibility. Every single day, each child, when they arrived to the classroom, and he was always there before them, he greeted every child individually by name, and he gave them a different assignment to teach them responsibility. Somebody would clean the erasers on the chalkboard. Somebody else would put away art projects. And he gave kids little tokens that he called wows, where he rewarded them for creative thinking and cooperation. And they would collect these wows during the week and put them in a little jar. And at the end of the week, if collectively the class had achieved a certain level of wows, then they all got popsicles on Friday.
Oh my God.
At that time, I think this was back in 1997. I'm dating myself again. My father was battling cancer. And while I'm interviewing, I had done a story for KARE 11 about my father. Each reporter was asked to do a story about his or her own hero. And the producer said, "We know how you feel about your dad. Would you mind doing a story about your relationship with your father?" So I did. So I'm interviewing Dennis Frederick, and he asked me how my father's doing. He's not so self-absorbed in his own cancer. Right? He wants to make sure that I'm okay because he knows that I was struggling a bit with my father. And at the end of the story, Dennis says on camera that the reason he's doing this is because in the early part of his career, he was teaching kids how to, these are third graders. So what does that make them? 8 or 9 years old?
Yeah, 9 years old.
Okay. Well,
12 for Steve.
Right. St. Jude's, took a little longer.
These little kids how to be good citizens and good responsible adults. But he said, I also thought that I might be able to teach them how to die with dignity. And that's a little heavy lesson.
Yeah.
But he also said, I don't want them to be afraid of death. I want them to be proud of what they're doing and contributing and being part of a team. So I would put Dennis, if not at the top of the mountain, I'd put him on my Mount Rushmore of individuals who I had the privilege of meeting.
Wow.
While being a reporter at KARE 11.
I love that tribute on your dad, Peter. I saw that. I also saw there was one on your channel about Carol, your mom. Is that right? With the art collection?
Oh my goodness. Well, that wasn't a KARE 11 story.
No, but it was, I saw that someone had commented on it and said that was such a nice tribute. And I'm assuming that was your mom. I didn't get a chance to verify, but.
Yes. And I'll be quick with this one. But my mother was an art connoisseur. My mother, Carol Daly. She served on the Minneapolis Public Arts Commission and helped decide which rising or struggling artists deserve to be commissioned by the city of Minneapolis for public art. Think about when you're walking in downtown Minneapolis and seeing beautiful sculptures or eye-catching pieces of public art. My mom helped decide who would produce those pieces of art.
Cool.
Anyway,
That's cool.
a large number of her friends were artists, and when she knew that her days were numbered and that she would be passing on, one of her best friends, an artist pretty well known in the Twin Cities named Harriet Bart, asked 30 other artists to create tiny little pieces of art on like 3-inch by 2-inch easels.
Yeah.
And they all got together and presented these pieces of art to my mother, and they were handed out at her memorial service after she passed away. And now my mother's best friends and family members have reminders of her life and her friendship with others, thanks to those pieces of artwork. That's what that story was all about.
That's great.
Mark, I just want to, on behalf of the Kindness Chronicles podcast, apologize. Jeff probably knows far more about you and your family than you would ever want. He does deep research. In fact, when he brought up that story, your reaction was very similar to the reaction for many of our guests. It's like, how do you know my social security number? He's a very he should be on Dateline NBC is where he should be.
I'd love to. I was investigative journalist myself, I think, in a former life. So
anybody can be an investigative journalist. All you have to do is call yourself an investigative journalist.
There you go, Jeff.
Yeah, John, I know what you're getting here in a little bit, but there's no accreditation for journalists. You have to go to med school to become a doctor. You have to go to nurse school to become a nurse. You have to get your teaching certificate. But one of the problems with the way we all get our information these days is anybody can call herself a journalist. And you really need to do your research. And there are ways to do that. By objective third-party observers who actually measure different media outlets on their biases. But Jeff, kudos to you for doing your research and learning about
yeah.
So I want to ask you, Mark, about moving on to Lifetime or Anytime Fitness.
Jesus,
Anytime Fitness. I said Anytime. I called him Kevin Daly. Come on, this
Kevin,
is who I am.
Lifetime.
Anytime Fitness. You said you went right from Care 11 to Anytime, but you took on a different role there. Like, how did you adapt to going from being reporter to being
storyteller?
You were a storyteller, but how did you make that jump? I guess.
Well, I don't think I'm going to be giving away any private information here, but it does have to do with the gentleman that John mentioned, Chuck Runyon, one of the co-founders of Anytime Fitness. One of the last stories that I did at Care 11, and one of the ones I'm frankly proudest of, was a series of reports about organ donation. And Chuck saw one of the stories, and his older brother happened to have, who he idolized, died in the midst of heart transplant surgery. When he was 17 years old and Chuck was 14. Chuck saw the story. He was familiar with my work, and he knew that I was looking around. My hearing was getting so bad that it was making it difficult to be a reporter. Anyway, Chuck and I had a conversation, and he said, we're on the verge of exponential growth. We need somebody to tell our amazing stories. Nobody's telling them right now. If you're thinking about a career shift, maybe we think about coming to Anytime Fitness. And so I made the big leap. I was about 45 years old at the time. And he told me that one of my responsibilities would be, actually privileges, the way I would look at it, to travel the country each summer and do stories about people who were overcoming extraordinary challenges in their life, a wide variety of them, to lead healthier, happier, more productive lives. And I hired a freelance photographer who used to be the director of photography at Care 11. His name is Dave Dennison, a great man who was also hard of hearing. So the two of us ride around the country in a van. What? God forbid we got a call. Anyway, what if I give you an example of one of those?
Yeah.
All right. This one, Betty Lou Sweeney, a 72-year-old nurse living in eastern Wisconsin, not too far from Green Bay. Although she was taking care of other patients, she was not taking care of herself. She was terribly overweight, taking 26 meds a day, not active in any sort of way. And then she had a health crisis and she nearly died. She literally nearly died. She was so unhealthy. So she saw a little ad in the newspaper for a new Anytime Fitness club that opened up, and she took the first step, walked in the door at age 72. Now I want you to think about this. And she said, I need a trainer. And some kid in the back, his name is Dave, raised his hand. He didn't have any clients at the time. He's 21 years old. You're going to be my first client.
Yeah.
Well, Betty Lou went from nearly dying to losing 110 pounds to getting herself strong. She actually set the world record for planking.
What?
Steve, how long could you plank?
Oh my
You're
God.
on your forearms and your tiptoes and you're on the ground. How long could you hold that pose?
10.
I've done it,
Five,
like, not,
3
I don't think a minute's kind of a long time,
Yeah.
actually. I mean, you could do it, but
You start
minutes,
shaking.
Yeah. Or after 2 minutes, it's pretty rough.
Well, people who are considered elite athletes can do it for like 3 minutes or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
72-year-old Betty Leaney pranked for, I got to check my notes here.
You got that right there?
36 minutes and 58 seconds. She set the Guinness Book of World Records.
Wow.
For
That lady. Wow.
Yeah. But, that's just, it's not a weight loss story. The trainers in these tiny little Anytime Fitness gyms, and now I'm not doing any commercials for Anytime Fitness or anything.
Go ahead.
But I met people who were anorexic, had mental health issues, serious depression, suicidal ideation, domestic abuse. I mean, people who just needed somebody to care about them and help give them a little bit of confidence and help them get a little stronger and maybe join a little, small group fitness training sort of thing. So they had some accountability to others. Everybody shows up at 6 o'clock in the morning because I know you're going to be there and I'm going to be there and that sort of thing. But those stories were inspiring too. And they, personal trainers don't make much money. And but if you care about your client, if you show them a little kindness, you can do a lot of good in the world.
That's cool. And go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, we should try and get Chuck Runyon on the podcast. He has a remarkable story, East Sider. Steve, he's our kind of people.
Yeah.
He's an East Side guy.
And he likes to have fun.
Well, I've heard that.
I'd highly recommend it.
So you guys talked about the tattoo for a second, but Mark, you told me that it's kind of it's not a branding, it's a pride. People take pride in that, and that's kind of like a level of achievement. Tell us a little bit about that tattoo that Anytime Fitness people get.
Well, first I got a quick quiz question for you. What brand is tattooed on more human beings than any other brand worldwide?
Jeff?
Ooh, I love these things.
Harley Davidson.
Harley Davidson.
Harley Davidson is the correct answer.
Did you?
It is.
Did Jeff Did Jeff say it too?
He did it too. And when Mark and I talked, I said that too. I think we all knew that. Is that possible?
Okay. Well,
God.
so much.
We're just really smart, Mark.
Answers.
My second answer was going to be Dairy Queen, but that's probably not right.
No, people tend to get caught off guard, and if you ask them that question, they'll say Nike or Apple. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Who's going to?
They both crossed my mind. Honest to God, the first thing was Nike.
Yeah. Well, but those are very popular logos, but that doesn't necessarily translate to a tattoo. But Harley is something you just see. That's a lifestyle kind of thing, right?
Well, number 2 behind Harley Davidson is Iron Man, because that organization has gotten smart enough to have tattoos available for people who finish swimming and biking, running for 13 hours, and their brains are mush, and they say, "Do you want a tattoo?" And they say, "Sure." An Iron Man tattoo. But the story behind the story with the Anytime Fitness tattoo, Chuck is walking late at night with one of the very first Anytime Fitness franchisees and a small group of other guys, and they've been to the bar and they pass a tattoo parlor, and Chuck says, "Hey, you should get," he's talking to the franchisee, "a Running Man logo tattoo." Running Man is the brand logo for Anytime Fitness. And the guy says, "I will if you pay me." So guys throw together $50, and he goes and gets a Running Man tattoo. And this must be 2003 or 4 or something like that. And then maybe 1 or 2 other guys get tattoos. And Chuck gets the idea, we should pay for tattoos if members decide to get a tattoo, or for franchisees decide to get a tattoo. And I'm the new PR guy, storyteller, right? That's a good idea. And so when they have new franchisee training, they bring in a tattoo artist, and I get a call up in my office. "Hey, we got another franchisee who wants a tattoo." And honestly, and that's what we're all about here, is honesty. I'm thinking to myself, what a rube. I can't believe this guy gets a logo on his leg or his bicep or whatever it might be. But I grab my camera, I go downstairs, take a picture of this guy getting a tattoo. And my work colleagues at the corporate offices of Anytime Fitness start chanting my name. Daly.
Oh.
Like, get a tattoo? And I'm stuck. I've got no choice.
You have, the gauntlet has been laid down.
Yep.
So I get the tattoo, as like I say, the outer side of my shin, just above my ankle, but I want to customize. A lot of people get their Running Man tattoo customized. So I got a Superman cape on the tattoo.
Oh my God.
But here's the deal. My daughters are 13 and 10 at the time. It's the middle of winter. I go home and I don't have the guts to tell my wife that I just got for 3 days. I hide it, I'm walking around in the bedroom with a strange way. We're going to a hot tub party at a friend's house, and my wife and I are in sort of this, foyer area. And I said, "Honey, I got something to tell you." She later tells me that she thinks I'm going to say I'm sick or I'm having an affair. The look on my face is very, very serious. But,
yeah.
I said, "I got a tattoo." And she goes, "What? We have impressionable young daughters who are going to want things everywhere and tattoos everywhere. What are you thinking?" A couple days later, she said she thought it was kind of sexy because it was
there we go.
the sort of thing I would normally.
Badass.
Nice job.
Anyway, there are 4,000 Anytime Fitness members and franchisees and trainers who now have Running Man tattoos, because we started a program where if they sent us a receipt for a tattoo and a picture and they allowed us to put it in a magazine, we'd reimburse them for the cost of the tattoo.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, that is cool.
That's
That's
cool.
how Anytime Fitness got to be number 3 on that list.
Wow.
We're going to start offering that to our Kindness Chronicles
Let's go.
podcast
Let's
subscribers on YouTube. That we will be up to maybe 13 or 14 by the end of the year.
We'll start with you, John, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So I love the idea of like starting out by telling your wife or making her believe that you have cancer or some diagnosis. I remember when I was a senior in high school, and I went home and I told my parents that I had gotten a DWI.
Oh no.
And they were freaking out. And I go, no, actually. And then I had something else. And I go, honestly, I got a D in Mrs. Mickna's calculus.
Oh my God. You
And they're
start with
like,
the worst. Yeah, that's a good technique.
That is.
so that's the lesson for today is, work your way from something horrific to something that's not so bad.
Yeah.
I'll file that under consideration, but I don't think I'm going to follow your lead on that.
We're probably sort of getting close to wrapping up, and I don't want to take up any more of your time, Mark. But I have to say, Kevin, your brother Kevin, who I mistakenly called you earlier, his name comes up on this program a lot because, yes, it does, because Billy McLaughlin sat here and we talked to him, and that was one of Kevin's early artists that he represented at this company. Also, Jennifer Gasner, we interviewed her, and she is someone that I met through Kevin, and we had a big conversation with her. She wrote a book, and we talked about her book, and she talked about Dave Matthews buying her a van. So Kevin has come up several times on this podcast, as well as there's a couple other people. So he's kind of a legend already in this podcast. We have to have him on sometime. But I'm bringing him up because you guys are both, you have genetic hearing loss in your family. And you get involved with I'm a member of the board for Hearing Loss Association of America. You're very involved. You do some speaking. And I saw a couple clips. You had a couple really unique stories about your hearing loss. And tell us a little bit about just the background on that and some of the stories that you had that kind of they're kind of humorous stories about your hearing loss. Not to make fun of it, but how you talk about it and how you express how you live with it.
Dailies have a tendency, when you ask them a question, to go back so much farther than you want us to. So I'm trying to resist that temptation. But the first part of this story is apropos.
Is this a long story? I had to say it. Sorry.
That's what John asked.
You're going to like the punchline of the first
part.
My grandfather, my father, my two younger brothers, and I all have genetic hearing loss. We're missing a small piece of bone matter in those tiny little bones in your ear. Mm-hmm. And at about age 30, you start to lose your hearing and you need to wear hearing aids. My father grew up on the East Coast, actually in Cape Cod, and ended up in New Hope. And he wanted his parents, Grandma and Grandpa Daly, to come visit us. But my grandfather was so hard of hearing that he had isolated himself. He basically didn't leave the house. And my dad said to his mother, well, if Dad doesn't want to come out to New Hope, then you should come by yourself. And she said, he'd never forgive me. He would think that I was ridiculing him by coming by myself. And my dad got furious, and he said, I'm going to go and talk with him. My dad relayed this story to me. And my grandmother said to my father, be kind, Peter, be kind. Do not embarrass your father. And I have never forgotten that story. He told us that story at age 12, and it frustrated him. But anyway, Dailies just don't hear well. But because of that, and now I'm kind of flattering myself a little bit.
Go for it.
Well, we try to listen. When you can't hear, you need to focus on what somebody's saying, and you're not worried about trumping them by coming up with a better story than you're not thinking, well, what can I say? You're trying to really actually understand what they're saying, and I think that made me a better reporter.
Interesting, yeah.
I listen, but here's I'll wrap it with this quick story. When you don't hear well, some people treat you as if you're dumb. If you have to say what, like you're not understanding. And a couple of years ago, I went to the DMV. There was some mix up in paperwork. I show up at 2:30. The place is going to close at 4:00. and I wanted to get new tabs or something. And I had to ask a woman at the DMV named Prairie to repeat herself. And she was furious with me. And she's like, what are you doing coming in here at 2:30? We're going to close at 4. I can't call St. Paul and get an answer to your question by then. And I was like, well, wait, I got all the paperwork here. You know, can't you just help me? And she went next to the next person in line, and she was just totally ignoring me. Yeah, it was the things. And I'm a senior citizen now.
So am I.
Well, the next day, I show up at the same DMV at 10 o'clock, and I get another representative or agent. And the first thing I say, and I do this, and people who don't hear well often do this, they immediately say, I'm sorry, I don't hear well, to alert them to that sort of thing. And she said, let me see your paperwork. And she said, oh, there you go. Here are your tabs.
Wow.
So it just depends on the individual. And, you know, we all have choices. How are we going to treat other people? Am I going to be a jerk today because I don't like my job?
Right.
Or am I going to be helpful because I'm a people person? That's the sort of thing you deal with when you got hearing loss. And I think everybody deals with that sort of thing too.
Yeah.
Well, I have two things. For starters, I want to address, I like New Hope, but Cape Cod to New Hope.
Yeah.
I mean,
Come
that's
on.
no bargain.
Yeah, your
Let's
poor
be
dad.
honest.
Yeah, he traded it off a little bit there. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. But what I want to address is we talk about the importance of managing your algorithms. So the YouTube stories that you get fed are ones that will lift you up. And one of my favorites is when babies have the cochlear implants put in.
Yes.
They hear for the first time, and the look on their faces and the tears that flow from. I could watch those videos. It's like also little babies that get glasses for the first time, and they can see with clarity.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Adults too.
That is oxytocin overdose.
Yes. There's a woman who goes to her friend. She had hearing implants came in, and she could hear for the first time. And she's at the door with her friend, and she's like, "I can hear you." She's like, "What?" She's like, "I can hear you." Oh, it's so emotional.
Yeah.
It's so sweet, and it's a beautiful thing. And that's part of our Oxytocin Sunday that we always try to promote. Get people to look at their, change their algorithm and watch good
On
stuff.
Sunday.
Yeah,
Oxytocin Sunday. Don't you
Yeah.
think that's fun? Oxytocin Day. Anyway.
How strange is it that the three of us are in our respective beds scrolling through the same videos later?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's great.
It's our community. We're all part of the same community.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. I'm so glad this worked out. I hope to hear from you maybe after you get back.
I look forward to it. Nice meeting you, John and Jeff, wherever you are.
Yeah.
Great to meet you,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Thanks for joining us.
And off we go.